All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Frank Peterzak, and I'm one of the auctioneers with Absolute Auction and Realty and the NYSauctions.com team. This evening with me behind the technology is Jessica Meyer-Booth from our office, and she'll be hosting the backside of this evening's bidder seminar. I want to welcome all of you from Madison County, those of you near and far, who are joining us tonight to learn about how to participate and buy property at the Madison County Municipal Tax Auction for 2021. I suggest that if you have a cell phone with a camera, that you get it ready or have it nearby, because there are a number of slides of information that we're going to present to you tonight over the next hour and 10 minutes. That you may want to capture for yourself and be able to refer to again a little bit later on your camera. We will also have a recording of this seminar available on our website, I believe somewhere in about 24 hours. So you'll be able to watch this again. And the nice thing about that is you're able to scroll forward quickly to get to the points of interest if you want to hear that information over again. So please take some snapshots of information that you think is relevant. Again, my name is Frank Peterzak. You can reach me through a variety of means at Auctioneer Frank on social media. I'm Frank at AAR Auctions or Frank at Absolute Auction and Realty. And you could also reach us at info@AAR Auctions. We have a variety of social media accounts that you could look at information that we have, not only pertaining to tax auction, but of course, all the other types of auctions that we do. We service municipalities throughout New York State and individuals and estates in the tri-state region. So in order to be able to try and work together here, this is done as a seminar or webinar where we don't have you being able to speak and talk tonight on this in this format, but we do have a chat box. And if you go into the chat box, you can type a question in there that you would like us to answer specifically. But keep in mind, you know, the hour presentation pretty much will cover everything that we anticipate you're going to ask about. We've been doing these now for over 20 years. And we've heard an awful lot of the same types of questions, and we tried to build that right into this presentation. One of the first questions I think some people are having is, are we even going to have an auction in September? And right now, this tax auction is scheduled for Thursday, September 16th. The live bidding will commence at 10 a.m. in the morning. And this auction is entirely online bidding only. And right now, we understand that we're able to move ahead. We have not heard anything different. And I understand that there has been a special legislative session. There's been a foreclosure moratorium put in place extending into January 15th. But we're not really clear or certain whether that affects properties already in the pipeline or those about to be taken title to. So right now, it's our understanding that we are moving ahead. We do have one or two other counties that are in a similar position of Madison County where they already have title to these properties. So those auctions may come online also this fall. This online auction is entirely online, again, through the NYSauctions.com website. And we want to lead you through a number of different things. We want to give you an overview of the Article 11 real property tax law here in New York State on how these properties became part of this auction. So we're going to show you and let you hear just a rough synopsis of some of the procedures, some of the deadlines that have taken place that have led to this point. And then the law also prescribes that these properties be sold at public auction. So we'll cover that too. And there's a tremendous amount of information for you this evening. You'll probably want to watch this webinar again, and again, take some screenshot photos as we move along. So one of the first questions is, why do I have to pay my taxes? Well, it's the law. If you do a Google search for NYS RPTL Article 11. That's New York State Real Property Tax Law. And you get to the Senate Gov site. That's one of the first sites that comes up. Click on the Article 11 area and you'll see New York Consolidated Laws Real Property Tax Law. Click on it, it'll open up. There are multiple pages. Scroll down to Article 11, and then you will find entirely the section of the law that we're talking about. Once you get to that page, it should look like this, and you're at the right spot. If you see up in the upper left-hand corner, NewYorkSenate.gov, and then in the middle, there should be, once you scroll down to Article 11, and that's what you're going to want to click on to open that up for more information. And I think it's about a 37-page or so reading. You can download it, save it to your computer. Some of you we know want to read it in its entirety. It works really well with a glass of beer or a glass of wine to help you kind of relax as you read through all the legalese. But there are specific steps in there that you may want to become knowledgeable about. We're going to try and cover the highlights tonight. We're not trying to teach you the law. I'm not a licensed attorney, so I'm not doing that. But we want to give you enough information so that you're an informed buyer, that you feel comfortable buying property at tax auction, and that you understand what the process is and how you eventually take title, meaning take ownership of the property. Just as an aside, our company has specialized in this arena for over 20 years. We've returned well over, I think now, I'm going to say 60,000 properties to the real property tax rolls throughout the state. We work with 16 different counties throughout New York State, some small cities, some individual towns. And typically every year, the tax auction is a one-time event. And they run basically on the weather. We really don't have much to do in January and February, but beginning in March, April, and running into as late as December, we will have tax auction as long as we can navigate the areas without too much snow. We cover from Dutchess County, Orange County, in the southern eastern portion of New York. We go all the way up to Clinton County, which is near Plattsburgh, over to Franklin County and Malone, and out towards Batavia and Orleans County. So we cover a pretty broad part of New York State. And generally in a normal year, where we're doing all of the tax auctions for all of our clients, we'll bring maybe 1,500 to 2,000 properties to auction throughout the state. So there are some key steps that we want you to be aware of. First of all, we're talking about people who have not paid their real property taxes, and those are paid to the county, and those 2 years to 3 years of delinquency. Why two numbers? All properties, according to Article 11 law, are subject to foreclosure when they become 2 years delinquent. 3 years if the property is classified as agricultural property. So for the 2-year process, we're talking about vacant land, we're talking about commercial property, any type of residential property, and that's multifamily, single family. There are multiple property class codes of property that is in the 2-year, minimum of 2-year delinquency, 3 years for agricultural property. And we'll address a little bit more what you need to know about ag district property in a minute. Every year, people get tax bills and notices to let them know that the taxes are due. There are public notices, according to Article 11, that must be printed in your local paper of record, and we'll show you what those look like. The county that is performing the foreclosure action, they must do a title search and find what they call interested parties. Obviously, the owner of the property is interested and they're notified, but there may be other people interested in a property that is heading to tax auction, and we'll cover those people and why they may be interested. There's also a 90-day notice, a final period of notification to those interested parties before the county actually takes title. And of course, the entire procedure being a legal procedure, there's a presumption of validity and final judgment because there are affidavits signed along the way. There are procedures that are followed and attested to by typically the treasurer for each county or finance commissioner who is in charge of this process for the county as prescribed by the law. So they presume that everything was done well and correctly. And in our experience, again, we find that none of the auctions that we worked on over 20 years have ever had to be canceled or changed because of errors. So they do a good job in terms of getting these properties ready for public consumption at auction. I mentioned tax bills. Everybody gets a tax bill, and you're responsible to pay it. Just part of the privilege of owning real estate in New York. Tax bill typically looks like this. It comes in the mail, and there are lots of good information on the tax bill, your assessment value, the full property value according to sales history of similar property in that area. And then there are also, at the bottom, if you look at this tax bill, there are also periods of time that you can pay beyond the deadline, but you're going to pay with interest penalties and when these amounts are due. If you look in the center of this tax bill, it tells you that this is a 2.7 acre property. It's classified as rural vacant land. It's under 10 acres. And it has a street address at Canoe Hill. So if you're a property owner, either as an individual or as an incorporated entity or a trust or any type of a nonprofit agency, you're going to get a tax bill. Even if you don't get the tax bill, for some reason it doesn't come in the mail, you don't get it, you've moved, you've changed address, there's no excuse not to pay your tax. The tax is due every year. There are numerous court cases that have gone through litigation regarding I didn't get my tax bill, I moved, they didn't forward it, etc. Those cases never prevail. The courts have always decided on the side of the municipality of New York State and that taxes are due. So if you get one of those notices, and even if you don't, make sure you pay. So the public notice, the typical printing of the public notice means that these lists of delinquent properties must appear in one of two of what's called official countywide newspapers. So every county designates two broad county, and these this advertisement or this list, if you will, of delinquent tax parcels must appear in them, and they must appear in a particular number of times over a period of weeks. And the idea is here is that, if you didn't get the letter that was sent to you, if you didn't respond to the notice of delinquency, you may be reading the newspaper and you might see your name in the paper, or a friend or a neighbor sees your name in the paper and lets you know taxes are due. So let's take a closer look at this information. This particular one out of Orange County, it's a list that is typical of what you see throughout the state. On the left side, when you read these, and this is a legal notice, so this will be in the legal notice section of your newspaper. It's written in some legalese, but if you take your time, you can understand it. But one of the things, a couple of things we highlight for you. One is you want to see where I've underlined in the upper left side that this is an Article 11 foreclosure. You want to understand that what is on the list on the right has gone through the process of Article 11 on the left. And there's a key reason for that. There are a lot of properties listed in the legal notices that may be bank-owned properties, they may be surplus properties, they may be a variety of things, bankruptcy property. Article 11 means that at the end of the process, the property is being sold to you free and clear of liens. Now, there's no guarantee of that, but the way you do your homework and double check the work of the county, you will see that they do serve all the lien holders. And we're going to cover that, and I'll explain that in greater detail. But nonetheless, buying a tax foreclosure is a property that comes on a very simple deed, comes either on a quick claim deed, or in Madison County, they call it a tax foreclosure deed. Very similar, simple transfer. The way they take title is the way they transfer to you, and they transfer to you based on that series of numbers that you're looking on the right side. So let's turn our attention over to the right side of the page. The first series of numbers before the semicolon is the identification of the county and the town. So Orange County is 32, and 2089 happens to be the town of Deer Park. So all of these properties are in the town of Deer Park, and they go in ascending tax grid order. Now we'll look at the next set of numbers. Those are specific parcels. Right at the top, 20-1-38.1. That is a specific legal description of a tax parcel. So that is owned by the individual that's listed there. They're the first name on the deed. Their name gets published in the paper. And these are all listed sequentially. Just give me 1 second to have a sip. So when you see these, some people are tempted to start doing their homework on all of these properties in this list. I'll share with you that this list in my local paper sometimes goes on for 2 or 3 pages. There may be hundreds and hundreds of properties listed at the beginning of the process. So, you may want to identify properties close to you and kind of keep your eye on them. But in terms of doing every single property as homework, I think you're too far ahead of the game. This list is coming out, 2 years before the tax auction. So the interested parties that are going to be notified are the results of a basic title search. So the county will do a title search. They're going to search for the owner of the property and everyone who has an interest in the property, what we're calling the interested parties. Where do you do that? County's clerk's office is where all these records of real estate transactions and history of ownership are kept. These are in the deed books. And if there are any liens against these properties, they are also recorded in the county. So you would have to go to the county clerk's office the same way the county did their title search and look for recorded liens. Only recorded liens are valid. Verbal liens, while they may be valid between neighbors across the driveway, are not valid in terms of being notified as a lien holder. How do you look for liens? You want to look up the last name, first name of the delinquent tax owner and look in the lien and judgment books. And those are also in the county clerk's office. And while you're there, like the county did, you want to make a list of any liens or judgments that you have discovered under the last name, first name of the delinquent owner. Now, if they're married, you're going to want to look for both people. If there's several names in terms of maybe a partnership, you want to look for them. You're also going to want to check things like middle initial, Joseph versus Joe. There may be nuance in how some of these things are recorded, and it's still the same individual. So you want to make sure that you discover the entirety of the list of liens or lien holders. And then we suggest you go visit the treasurer's office and ask them if they notified the same people you discovered. And typically they will share with you either very simply by taking a file out, or in some cases having you file a Freedom of Information request to get that verification of lien notification. The liens that you find should match the liens that the county has found 100%. If they found the bank has a mortgage on a property, you should find that there's a bank with a mortgage. If they find that the hospital bill wasn't paid, and there was litigation and a judgment filed against the owner, against that patient and their real estate, you should find a hospital lien. If there was even a small lien, maybe a roofer did some work and was not paid and won a small claims judgment. As long as the lien was filed, it's valid. And as long as they're notified, that's a good thing. You want to know that the county treasurer's office and the legal department did notify all lien holders. While you're in the county records, you're going to want to check the IRS books for IRS liens. That's a separate search. And you're going to want to go look again, last name, first name, for any owners, delinquent owners who may have IRS liens against them. And we're going to talk more about these later. We don't see a tremendous amount of IRS liens, maybe 1 to 3 per county. That's just a guess. Yeah, we've seen 4 and 5, but that's where the auctions were 300, 400, 500 properties. But in a smaller auction, 30, 40, 60, 100 properties, 1 to 3 liens is typical. Now, if for some reason a lien holder was not notified, that lien may still be in effect. So you're going to want to double check that the county did their homework. Now, some of you are probably sitting home going, gee whiz, Frank, how am I supposed to learn how to do searches? Well, we've just given you the basics on how to do it. But to be honest with you, if I was to go into this process like you are as a buyer, I would hire somebody to do this. I would hire a title searcher on my own accord and pay them to actually do the search for me. And they'd be happy to do that. And this way you have a professional who does this type of work every day, who's comfortable looking through the information, knows how to find it, and can provide you with such lists that I'm talking about. Then you can take that list and compare that to the notification process from the county. As we go through this process, we head to that 2-year delinquency. There's a 90-day notice that's finally sent to all interested parties. It's what's known as the last opportunity for any lien holder to protect their lien. So I mentioned earlier, there may be a bank that has a lien on a property related to a mortgage. There may be a hospital that has a lien on a property. There's a roofer that may have a lien on the property. They are notified and they're given an opportunity to, quote unquote, protect their interest. So how do they do that? The way to protect their interest is to come and pay the taxes. So I'll share with you the likelihood of that happening is pretty much 0 to none. If you were a lien holder, a bank that's being owed, or a hospital that's being owed, or the roofer that's being owed, it's very likely you will not show up to pay the taxes just so that your lien stays alive. That's why they have opportunities to write off bad debt, and that lien will no longer be in effect for you. How it affects the delinquent, that's debatable, whether that's income to them or not. We're not going to get into that discussion, but our experience is lien holders are not stepping forward to pay taxes. They're being notified, but that's pretty much the end of the ball game for them. In 20 years, I have seen 1 or 2 banks have to come to the auction and bid to buy the property at public auction. And that was, some clerical error on their end where the taxes were not being paid. But for the most part, not an issue. So this presumption of validity and final judgment, fancy way of just saying that everything was done correctly, and the judge is going to say that this was all done according to the law. And then once the judge grants title to the county, right? So the county takes title to all of these properties. All the lien holders' interests are then forever barred. That's what it says in the law, from coming forward to protect or enforce their lien for you, the buyer. So that mortgage, that hospital bill, that roofer bill, as long as they were notified, as long as they were given an opportunity to protect their position as a lien holder. It is not your problem going forward. And we've seen literally hundreds of mortgages wiped off tax auction property for you, the new buyer. Hundreds and thousands of liens of all variety, from hospital to nursing home to judgments, state judgments, all types of liens wiped away for you, the new buyer. Then, of course, the small claims court. This is really a very powerful law, Article 11, very powerful law written to help municipalities collect some or all of back taxes through an auction process, and then to also return that property to the productive tax roll with a new owner, you, who will become the responsible taxpayer going forward. So it's a very strong part of the law, and it works extremely well for you as buyers. Again, we've sold a lot of these properties and pretty much haven't heard anything but happiness from the buyers year after year. So where can you find these properties? You know, I mentioned that we do work with 16 counties around the state and municipalities. Pretty much every municipality on the county level, some small cities in New York State, and some individual towns who don't do much with the county. For example, Westchester County doesn't have a broad countywide tax auction. It's done town by town or city by city. You can reach out to the finance department of each of those municipalities and inquire. Say, when do you sell your tax properties, tax foreclosed property? For us, if you're interested, you could simply go to NYS Auctions or AAR Auctions. They'll both funnel you to the same place, and you can see our auction calendar to see what's coming up, or join our email list, and you'll get notification as soon as we know we have an auction. I'll tell you at this point that we do not rent or sell your name or email address to anyone. Strictly an in-house, used for in-house marketing to let you know when we're doing auctions. And we won't spam you either. If you're not interested in frequent notification or any notification, just tell us and we'll either take you right off the list or we'll take you out of the categories you're not interested in. So again, you can go to AAR Auctions, NYS Auctions. This is just part of our auction team. That's part of the tax foreclosure area who does this type of work throughout New York. Madison County, there's an online brochure that you can download. I did print my copy, and this way I could thumb through it and make notations as we're doing this work. But you're able to download your own. On the right side, we have thumbnail images of some of the properties. When you go to the website, obviously, you can see a lot more detailed information. So one of the things that's, you know, maybe overwhelming is, wow, there's just so many properties, you know, so many choices. How do I go about making my selection? So it really depends on your ability to do buyer due diligence. You know, you have to do your homework and discover what you're interested in. We occasionally have somebody contact us and say, you know, I'm interested in everything. The reality is most people are only interested in one or two properties. You may be interested in a neighboring property, something that touches your property. You may be interested in some other area of the county where you either want to move or develop or invest or enjoy recreation. Or if you're from out of town or out of the area, you know, you're looking for something specific. Number one request, do you have a lakefront cabin? Sure, we occasionally do. They're not often, they're not everywhere, but we do have them. But that's the number one request, kind of a, you know, weekend relaxation property. But the way you go about your homework, you know, are you overwhelmed? Do you want to pull your hair out? Are you very organized, or do you just find this whole thing too challenging? Again, you can do your own homework or you can hire a professional. So there's a number of things that we have on our website that actually helps you Do your homework. We have assessment reports, we have tax maps, we have deed information links. If we have liens that are discovered and scannable, we have them on our website. These days, most of the deeds and IRS liens are discovered through your own search through the municipal system, because you need to sign up typically for a day, get like a day pass. It may cost you a couple of dollars to go and look up information, or you only pay when you download to print information. And then you might want to have additional information about towns, villages, and schools. And we'll tell you how to get that information too. So let's start with the assessor's report, what we call the real property system, or the RPS. The assessor's report, it really has a tremendous amount of information, and they look like this. I took this one from Deer Park, from Orange County, just as a sample. Many times they have photos, sometimes they don't, but many times they do have photos included. There's information on the actual legal description, the size of the property, what it is, how big it is, bathrooms, bedrooms, if it's improved. Does it have any outdoor structures that come with it? This one has a machine shed. It also has an enclosed porch. You know, what kind of utilities? There's a sales history. There's a lot of great information in this assessor's report. And for the most part, they're free and easy to access. We have copies directly on the website that you can just look at or download for your own use. If you take a little closer look, this property on the upper right side, you'll notice that it is class code 210. It's a one-family residence. So it's single family. It's in the Port Jervis School District, 1.2 acres. Right above that first long horizontal line, you'll see that it talks about the deed book and deed page. So this information is what you want to, make note of when you go to the county clerk's office, either online or in person, and find book 12069, turn to page 1326, and lo and behold, you will have the latest deed on this property. It also tells you about how big it is, again, bathrooms, style, etc. There's lots of great information there for you to glean and learn about these properties without even having to leave your home. You can do a lot of homework right there. We also have tax maps, and typically we don't put the full sheet tax map there because sometimes it's very difficult to find property. So we're doing things that are more of a tax map cut, where we've already identified the parcel for you, and those yellow, trying to show it to you here, but in the booklet and on our website, those yellow parcels, we've already cut them out of the map. But if you were to look at a full sheet map, I'll just quickly show you how to find these things. Where is 2-1-12, 2-1-12? The first number is the map. So you'll look for this large map on the lower right corner, map 2 in Deer Park. The section is a circle with a number inside. So you're at the correct map, 2, correct section, 1. Now, where is 12? Now, 12 is a little hard to see, so we're going to have to look a little closer. And lo and behold, there's 12. So I put this little yellow circle around it so you can kind of take an eyeball look, and you'll find that there's a lot of information there. First of all, it gives you an approximate shape. Now, these are not survey maps. These are tax maps. And the way they're developed is the county uses very sophisticated software to enter all the meets and bounds description, all the written description of off of surveys, typically, where the property begins, in what direction does it travel, how far does it go, where does it pivot, does it go on a 90-degree corner, does it go in an angle. They type all of that information in for everything on this map, and then push a magic button and this appears. So it's an approximate shape of the parcel. So you'll see that property parcel 12 is 1.2 acres, right? 1.2 acres. And then if you look very carefully along the roadway, which is State Route 42, 252.1. So this has 252.1 feet of road frontage right on the road. All right, so there's a lot of good information here for you if you want to look at tax maps. And there we go. I had it pinpointed for you. I forgot this slide was here. Another great thing to use, another good tool, and we have these on our website, is we have Google Map links to the property. So I like to use my cell phone. You could use your computer, desktop to do this, but it's really handy to do on your cell phone. And you'll go to our website, find the property, click on the Google Map link, and then Google will open and show you this image. And they will give you a pin. They'll drop a red pin right on the parcel. And then they'll have an area, usually on the lower left, that says satellite view. So if you click on that, it turns the image from tax map view to aerial view. And the reason why this is kind of handy is before you ever drive there, you can get an idea of whether this property has been cut. Is it fully, forested? And, give you an idea of whether you should even be interested or not from the get-go. Of course, knowing that there's a home there and it's right on the road, you may still want to go see it. Now, how do you do that? Well, if you're at your desktop, you can do send to your phone, and I've put a red arrow there showing you to click that. And then once the window pops up, just type in your cell number and it'll just go right to you. When you open it on your cell phone, the really cool feature about this technology is obviously your cell phone knows where you are, but it'll also give you an opportunity to click on directions from wherever you happen to be sitting or standing to the parcel. You can click start and it will calculate, number one, the fastest route to get there from wherever you are, tell you how long it takes to get there and how many miles away it is. It's just a tremendous system. Finding homes is pretty easy because they have street addresses, right? Number 1327 New York 42 in Sparrowbush, easy to find. When you look for vacant land typically is not numbered until you build something on it. So, try and find a quarter or half acre piece of vacant land out in the countryside when there are no houses around. This system with Google will actually help you get there. We're really happy that we're able to capture that information and share it with you on our website. It makes getting there so much easier. So if you go into the county records, again, you're going to look this up by online or in person. There's the deed books. You'll see the deeds. And the deeds have lots of good information for you. They identify the property. This one happens to be, I think, maybe Sullivan County. Every county has a slightly different look to their deeds. But you're going to be interested in looking, once you know you're at the right parcel, you want to look for something that's called a Schedule A. The Schedule A is the meets and bounds description. This is that border description that the counties type in to that sophisticated software to create the tax map. So this information, this language came off of a survey map at some time. And it starts at a beginning and it ends at an end. And this one doesn't match the property I've been showing you, but it's very interesting reading to try and figure out how this all works. But you want to see a Schedule A because it'll confirm for you typically the size of the property that you're looking at. Again, this is not the same one as the 1.2 acre house we were looking at. It just read pretty clearly, so I used it for this presentation. So again, with title search, do you do it yourself? Do you hire a professional? For me, I hire a professional and pay them to do the search for me. Let's talk about IRS liens. IRS typically files liens for delinquent income taxes. So they look like the one on the right side. Once they're filed, they have a 10-year lifespan. If they're refiled, they have an additional 10-year lifespan. You know, the IRS definitely wants to collect your taxes. So if you look at the lien notice for a minute, this is what they look like. You'll see in the middle there the kind of tax this is. It's a 1040, right? So that's an income tax. And it tells you when it's filed, the ending Social Security number, the date it was filed, and then the last day for refile. It also tells you how much they owed. In this case, it was $79,220 something dollars, $226. We've seen IRS liens, you know, for a few $100. We've also seen them for, I think the highest one I've seen is about $4 million. So just because there's an IRS lien there should not scare you away. As long as you found that the IRS was notified, like any other lien holder, once you buy this property, the IRS will go away. So one other thing for you to understand, and I'll tell you how they go away. First of all, the IRS is unique. They're the only entity that's affected and effectively has like a superpower in this auction. And by that, I mean, they have 180 days, 180 days from the date of the auction going forward to buy the property from you for whatever you paid, whatever the closing costs, whatever the commissions were, on an even money, no profit basis. So you must sell it to them if they want to buy it from you. So again, the IRS has 180 days going forward from the auction to buy the property from you. How often have we seen this happen? In 21 years now, I've never seen it happen. I've never seen the IRS come and make you sell them the property because all of a sudden they have a super interest in it. The IRS lien, when noticed properly, goes away for you, the property buyer, but it doesn't go away for the tax delinquent or the individual they're looking for the income tax. They will simply refile that lien in another jurisdiction if that individual moves, or they will file it against other property they own. So as long as they're notified, don't be afraid of IRS liens. This one's a pretty significant one. Actually, it ended up being $792,269. Ooh, oh boy. It's a lot of income tax. So how do you find out about the other information we talked about? Towns, villages, water, schools, that type of stuff. First of all, real estate is a local product. So if it's located in a town, you're going to want to go talk to them. If it's in a village or a city, you're going to want to go talk with them. When I say them, I mean the real property people in those associated municipalities. You know, the county level, they understand the finances of the taxes and what was owed. They may be also handling the school tax and reimbursing school districts. But in terms of the actual condition of the property, the utility of the property, the use of the property, that's a local issue. That may be determined by town code, village code, etc. Are you done yet? Not really, not if you really want to find out more about these properties and try and start understanding what's the value of these properties. So the one way to do that is to look for recent, and we put in there closed sales transactions nearby. So I say closed because closed means that there was a seller and a buyer who had a meeting of the minds, and that's today's price. We do that at auction very quickly. It's done in some other fashions, maybe a little slower, sometimes much slower. But you want closed transactions to understand what the value is of a similar property. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Don't look at a 4-family and then try and compare it to a 1-family. Very hard to do the numbers on that and have that make a lot of sense. Also, as you're looking at some of these properties, and we've done interior photos of the uninhabited properties, right? The ones that were vacant. Our team went inside, we took photos and tried to give you a good idea of what the condition is there. If you can tell from those photos or when you do a drive-by of these properties what the condition is and may need some upgrades or repairs, you can start getting those repair estimates now. We'd reach out to, professionals in the area and have them give you some estimation of repair. You also may want to consider even a paid appraisal or work with a local real estate professional to help you understand pricing better, values better. And if you work with a real estate professional, consider paying them for their time. To get good information, it may cost you a few dollars. How can you tell if it's sold? Well, look for the property on the addresses of like Realtor.com and Zillow and Trulia. All of those sites I've listed on the left do have sold information. On the right side, that's the wish list. That's the for sale side. So that's a local newspaper. That's Homes and Land Magazine or Harmon Homes or House Upstate. There's a variety of publications that come out, some weekly, some monthly, some quarterly, that have for sale. And those are prices that may or may not actually reflect true value. So I always like to look at sold, what actually went down the road. So, when you look at these properties, are they alike? Well, in some regard, they are. They're structures. They seem to be habitable. Even the one with the plywood may be habitable. They're residential. They have a roof, I think. One has a roof garden. They have 4 sides, and they're all in New York. But, how can you make a real determination of value? You have to do your homework. When you look at tax maps, are these the same value? Unless you actually know dimensions or acreage size, you're just guessing, right? So they look similar, but wow, one of them on the left there, right, is 115 by 93 feet. The one kind of in the middle of the page, number 2, is 14 acres. Tax maps are not necessarily to scale. There's one for 62 acres. So you're going to want to make sure you know the dimensions. Again, costs of estimates for repairs, ask supply houses, ask for references of trades, people that do trustworthy work. Get a written estimate. Ask for any insurance certificates that you may satisfy you to have them come and work on your property. Even ask for references, and then follow up. Just making a list of people doesn't really help. You have to call and ask questions. I recently had a roof put on my home, and I asked once I got down to a couple of roofing companies, I asked them for references. And they're like, oh, sure, we have plenty of people that, we just did work for. I said, that's great. I also want a reference from a year ago or 2 years ago, preferably 3 maybe. Why? I want to see how their work stands up over time. They were surprised, but they smiled. They understood what I was trying to get at. So do your homework. When you ask a professional for advice, just keep in mind, advice is not always free. And if it is free, that advice is not always best. So, be prepared to offer, maybe a reasonable compensation for some help. When you do look at property, you want to make sure you ask the hard questions first. If you see things like yellow tape, if you see a yellow or orange sticker on a window that says violation, you're going to want to ask that local official, why is that on the window? What does that mean? When we were out photographing and we saw notices similar to this on the properties, we took pictures of them. So they are within the picture sequence of these properties on our website. Does it have well water? Is it septic or is public services? What about the schools? You're going to want to know about the zoning, right? Zoning tells you how a property can be used. It has to benefit the county or the municipality, community. It's a local law. or regulation that determines zoning, what you can do there, what you can't do. And laws can be modified. They can be suspended. They could be appealed, right? There's a zoning board of appeals. You know, a simple example is in some parts of New York State, you need 5 acres to build on it. In some parts of the state, that's wholly impractical. Can you imagine in Manhattan needing 5 acres in order to build? So, you know, if you buy a property that, let's say, has a 5-acre requirement, but the property you're buying at tax auction is only 4.85 acres, you may be able to go in front of the zoning board of appeals and say, hey, you know, I want to build something here. Can you provide me with a variance, right? A change so that I can use this property for what I'm intending to do with it. You're going to want to ask a lot of these questions before you become the owner. Now, building codes, they're more about design, construction. Talking about safety, health and safety and welfare of buildings. And there are different codes that govern this. There's a federal code, a New York State code, a local code. But you might want to talk to the code enforcement officer for the specific municipality and say, what can you tell me about this property? They're the ones that have intimate knowledge about the condition, the usability, maybe any violations, any things that need to be addressed. And, you know, they can tell you a lot of information. Start your homework early. Don't wait until the day before the auction. You know, start right now if you haven't already done that. Just a trivia question, which state do you think has the strictest building codes? Yep, I think you might be onto something there. A couple of people, the sarcastic emoji saying it's New York, but no, it's not New York. It's actually Florida. And for the reasons that we're just saying, you know, hurricanes, tornado, that kind of stuff. But Florida has one of the strictest building codes because they have some of the most severe weather. Is it public or private, right? Go back to that assessment report. Did it talk about municipal water or privately owned wells, right? Are there sewers there, or do you need septic, gas or electric? All of these different things are what you're going to want to look into ahead of time before you bid on these properties. In order to find out about the school systems, and that may be very important to you, you want to take a picture of this and go to data.nysed.gov, New York State Department of Education.gov. They put out a report on every single school district, and you could look it up. There's a tremendous amount of information when you dig through this site on school systems. So if that's important to you, it's a great resource. Get your questions answered before bidding, right? At auction, bidding means you want to buy. Also, get your finances together now. At the auction, a down payment is going to be required. Now, this is an online auction. And as we're going to learn in a few seconds when we get to the terms, you're going to have to pay a down payment immediately after becoming the high bidder. Most of you are going to do that through credit card or debit card. And it's probably the simplest way to do that. There is a provision where you can send in a bank or teller check, or what we call a cashier's check. But if you are going to use one of those forms of guaranteed funds, and the terms are very clear on that, that money must be in our office by September 10th. This auction is on the 16th. So that money must be, those checks must be received by us by September 10. No personal checks, no business checks, no home equity checks, nothing like that. They must be official bank or teller or cashier checks. And again, credit or debit cards. I'll talk more about that in a minute. After the auction, you're going to make an immediate down payment. You'll also get a contract of sale by email that you're going to sign. But there's an important deadline after auction. You must finish paying. You must finish this transaction. We call that closing no later than 4 p.m. on Friday, September 24th. So no matter how much you may be spending, you have to know that you can finish paying in full no later than Friday, September 24th. There are no contingencies in these auctions. There are no financing provisions. There's no inspection after the auction, and there's no excuses for you not to perform. So if you are not comfortable doing this process, we're going to advise that you just watch and learn and be ready for next year. At the same time, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people buy an auction every year, and they're happy with their purchases. For credit and debit cards, we accept Visa, MasterCard, and Discover card. We don't care if it's a credit or a debit format, but it has to be branded to Visa, MasterCard, Discover. So if you take out your card and look at it today, it has to say one of those things on it. We're going to suggest that you call the card provider before the auction. Before you ever use that card at auction, give them a call and say, it's a real estate purchase that I'm going to be making on September 16th. And then use our calculator on our website to estimate what your down payment will be on that credit card, and let them know. Say, you know, I may be putting X amount of dollars on my card on September 16th. And the great news is they put a note in the computer system, and once we process your card and it's within the limits of what they've typed in, everything goes smoothly. There's no reason to call you or call your card company back and delay the process. So I'll talk to you more about down payments in just in a minute, but do it today. I mean, after the seminar, you can call them and tell them you're going to be buying at the auction September 16th. We know it's a little bit of an annoyance to go through that phone tree and actually get to somebody, right? Push 2, push 1, push 6, type in your date, tell them all that information. But once you reach somebody, say, I'm just giving you a heads up. I want to buy something on September 16th and I want my card to work. Your card must work, right? In terms of bidding strategy, you know, bid early, get in early. You know, while the number is still very low, get into the bidding sequence, push the button, and make sure that you are bidding. And then know where you want to go and get there, right? The faster you get to the number that you want to get to, the sooner that you may outbid others or scare others out. And by that, we mean you can actually jump the bid, right? If we're going in $100 increments, 100, 200, 300, and you know the property is going to sell for much, much more, you may want to type in 500 and jump the bid. And it tells other people, hey, there's a strong buyer here. Yeah, probably not going to get it, so I'll just drop out. I wasn't that interested anyway. There are a lot of psychological strategies in the auction that people employ. You may be smart enough to know how to do that. You may be affected by it. Either way, if you came to buy, just make sure that you push the button to bid. There's no tomorrow or the next day or later. 99.9% of what we get bids on at the auction are going to sell and close to a new buyer. So there is no after party where you can have a second opportunity. So everybody would like one of these, right? Everybody wants an island and have a great time. The problem with islands is they don't have much road frontage. How do you get there? And you must be a good swimmer or have a boat, right? So here's an example of property without road frontage, right? On the left, here's a tax map. It looks like it's showing you roads, right? That nice corner property right on the corner of Arbutus and Ivy. On the right, I've zoomed in for you, and it looks like, wow, it's on a road. Look at that. It's beautiful. It's 100 feet by 100 feet. When we show you the aerial image, there's really no road frontage there. This is in the woods. That entire subdivision that you were looking at a minute ago is only on paper. NOH, not an official highway. It doesn't exist yet. It's only on a map. So if you're going to buy property, it may not have road frontage. We've tried to indicate that in our brochure to give you a fair warning that the property may not be accessible easily right now. How do I get to my land? Well, if it has road frontage, great. Drive there, have a good time. Where do you learn about that? Go to your deed. right? Read the deed. Look for property that has direct road frontage. Or look for things like, on the right side, a deeded ROW, a right of way, that allows you to make access and use it as passage without actually owning it, right? You can actually make a driveway or an access way over someone else's land to get to yours. That's a right of way. An easement doesn't let you build anything, but allows you to use it. You can go over it, right? You can walk through my backyard to get to the lake, but I'm not letting you put in a driveway to do so. You can come and walk across the grass or walk down the path. So you want to read easements and rights of way in the deeds, and they're typically there for you, usually in the Schedule A. Also, if it doesn't have an easement or a right of way, how do you get to your property? Well, in New York State says everybody can get to their land. Well, there's a couple of ways to do that. One, you may want to approach some of the other owners that do have road frontage and say, can I get a right of way? Can I get an easement from you to get to my property? And you may have to pay for that. And some may be willing to sell it to you, and maybe they don't. In the end, you may actually have to litigate your right to get there. That's a provision in the law that's there for you as a remedy, and you may need to hire an attorney to help you do that. So, are you ready to purchase? Let's get you good to go. We'll let you get signed up at the auction here, and we'll wrap up soon. Become a member of our site, get a name and a password, get the internet bidding packet, link is sent to you, and you'll be able to register and participate at the auction. So we need to know who you are. We need a driver's license, right? Passport, military ID, something that proves exactly who you are. You're going to sign a number of disclosures: agricultural district disclosure, New York State LLC ownership disclosure. There's also a lead paint form disclosure. There are a number of required forms that you're going to have to fill out. Also, the New York State agency, we represent the seller exclusively, right? We represent the county exclusively, not you as the buyer. You're representing yourself. The lead paint form tells you that the county doesn't know anything about lead paint. There's a booklet you could download and look at. And also the 10-day right of conducting a risk assessment or a test in the lead paint is something that doesn't happen at tax auction. If there is lead paint there and the county knows about it, they'll disclose it. I've never seen a disclosure. They don't test ahead of time for lead paint. So you're buying it as is, where is. Agricultural district, right? We talked about that 3-year delinquency window. Some properties may be agricultural. What does that mean? Well, it might mean they look, sound, and maybe smell like agricultural property. Might be great for your sinuses. How do you determine if they're ag property? One, they may be indicated agricultural somewhere on that assessment form that it's in an ag district. Or if you look at a tax map, usually there is a designation or a designated area that outlines agricultural property. So if yours is within the outline, it's part of this district. If it's not, it's outside, and it's not. And the reason why I mention it to you is because ag property may have certain restrictions. There may be certain development uses that you may or may not be able to do. There may be special taxation benefits to you. But that's something you're going to have to ask about, and you should contact the real property office of that municipality to find out if you're buying agricultural property. Everybody will be acknowledging the fair housing notice and that you've got the notification of discrimination. Everybody discloses that. If you're going to buy as an LLC, you need to prove that it actually exists with a filing form. It looks like this. It talks about when it was incorporated, when it existed, the name, etc. Even if you use LegalZoom or something like that to create an LLC tonight, you're going to get a filing receipt that shows that this corporation actually exists. You'll also have to disclose all the names, addresses, and percentages of ownership of each member. Now, if you're a single member, there's one person to disclose. If there are 50 of you, then each of you need to be on the list and show who owns what percentage. And that percentage in the end has to be 100%. For incorporated entities like LLCs, you're going to get an employer identification number. And we need the EIN number because there are a number of forms after auction that tie you either as a company or as an individual to the property. There are a couple of reporting forms that are used for statewide information. If you're going to bid on behalf of someone else, you're going to need a limited power of attorney. We have the newest form on our website. You can download it for free and use it. You might want to seek the advice of an attorney on how to fill it out. As you head to the auction, you ever feel like this guy? You're at the wrong end of the field and everything's tilted away from you. You don't really get to feel that at auction. You know, in a normal real estate sense, you might, because everybody's coming with a different way of dealing. At auction, we have what we call terms. Terms of auction, the way the county is going to sell it to you and the way you agree to buy it. Everybody is on the same level playing field. It's one of the real beautiful things about auction. You know, your bid amounts might be different, but everybody's offer is coming in the same way, and the seller agrees to sell to each of you the same way. And that's a real great benefit. So Madison County has created their own terms, their own rules, and we want you to read them carefully and understand everything that you're going to be responsible for. So there are a number of things I highlighted here. I'm not going to read this and go through them with you directly. I'm sorry to say that the numbering system on the left, as I go forward here, they don't match the numbers in your catalog. Somehow when I cut and pasted them, my Apple application and it's renumbered things for me. I didn't notice that until I was done and saved it. But nonetheless, everybody has to register. Everybody has to be ready to participate. And there's a way to do so. And you're going to do that all electronically. Everybody has to make a bid deposit at the beginning, at the end of the auction. And it all has to happen that way. If you're paying with the check, we explain to you how that works. It's all in the terms. Up front, you're going to need to provide a social security number or that federal tax ID number. We only use it if you're the high bidder, and it goes into the forms we need to create, the RP 5217 and the TP 584. These are New York State forms that are required of every real estate transaction. We're not doing anything unique here. It's at every auction. But we need your numbers ahead of time so that as soon as you're done bidding, our computer system generates all this information. For all the unsuccessful bidders, we purge and don't keep any of that information. So we're not archiving any of that stuff and keeping it. There's a buyer's premium. It's an 11% buyer paid commission. There's a discount if you use the bank checks, right? Guaranteed monies for your down payment. But that means you need to send it in early. It has to be in our office. I think it was September 10th. Again, we talked about credit cards. We went through that already. In number 5 here, which again may not match your numbers, the successful bid, you're going to pay the bid amount, the advertising fee, recording fees, anything else that is part of the buyer's premium, or any of the fees that are required by the county by Friday, September 24th, by 4 p.m. There's no exceptions, there's no extensions, nothing like that. We're going to suggest that you make your final payment by, again, official bank or teller check payable to Madison County Treasurer. Because if you do use the Treasurer's MasterCard, Discover, or Visa system, there will be an additional 3% fee. So to avoid that, make sure you make final payment with guaranteed monies directly to the county. In these auctions, the deeds will describe properties by section, block, and lot number. You're not going to get a street address, any other information. It's just going to be the number, 2-12-38, whatever that particular reference for that parcel is. And then the Madison County Treasurer will actually record the deed. So once the deed is actually recorded, the property is legally yours. There's some language here about when you can go in, who can, who can't bid. Anybody that's defaulted can't bid. Municipal officials can't bid. Employees of our auction can't bid. There's a bunch of people that cannot bid. Otherwise, this is open as a public auction. There are some taxes that will be paid and due. You're only responsible for town, county, village, and school levied after June 1st, 2021. Right, so back taxes, if you will, are not your worry, but anything levied after. There may be some re-levy of school tax, those types of things. I highlighted it for you, maybe village water bill, sewer bill. They might be levied onto the tax bill, maybe not. Typically in tax auctions, village and town water and sewer bills never get paid from the auction proceeds. That's something you typically have to pay extra. So if you're buying property with public water and sewer, ask the question, how much is due, and be prepared to pay that once you take title. Everything is being sold as is, and you need to do your own investigation and inspection in the property. At the very least, do a drive-by and take a look at the property. We are not able to conduct any in-person interior viewings this year. That's why there are photos only. And we don't suggest that you trespass and enter any of these properties on your own. The sheriff patrols these properties, neighbors are watching these properties, and you don't want to become in a legal position that you're not going to be comfortable with. So do a drive-by, rely on the photos, and everybody's bidding based on the same information. Again, some of the properties might be in an ag district. They're designated on the tax map. Your homework will discover that for you. Everybody has to make a deposit once you're the high bidder, so make sure your credit card works. And then once you're the high bidder, you're the closer. You're going to close the way you register. So if you registered as Joe S. Smith, that's how the title will be given to you, to Joe S. Smith. You can't flip it or transfer it to someone else unless the county agrees in writing, and we don't see that happen. So be prepared to actually take title and then sell it to whomever you like. Again, there's a commission, buyer's premium, 11%. There is an advertising fee added to that, deed recording fees. There's a minimum amount deposit required, and I've highlighted it here in red. The easiest way to go see that is to visit our website and to use the down payment calculator. And it's already set up to show you what your down payment should be at the auction. For those of you using a credit card, just understand that your credit card is used for this purchase in a legal transaction. Don't change your mind later and try to do what's called a chargeback. No one has been successful doing a reversal or a change of mind on the credit card. And if you do, you're going to get a $750 recovery fee through Madison County and the auction company for our trouble to basically let you know through the credit card company that you're going to have to pay. So there is no refunding of monies because you changed your mind. And don't even bother. It doesn't work. At the end of the auction, full bid report will go to Madison County, and the County Board of Supervisors will, through resolution, approve these bids. They have the right to accept or reject any bid for any reason. We never understand why they don't accept bids. However, occasionally we learn that they didn't accept the bid because somebody slipped through the process who was a delinquent taxpayer, either on the property they're trying to bid on or They owe property on another property in the county that's not in the auction, but they're still trying to buy more. That they do review all buyers and make sure you are not a delinquent taxpayer yourself. So again, it all has to be paid for by September 24th. There's no reason not to do so. If for some reason the sale is canceled by court order or judgment, you're going to get all your money back that you paid, any recording fees, etc. But there's no interest, there's no penalty fees, there's no anything. It just, sorry, it got canceled. We haven't seen this happen, but the language is there. Conveyance to you is by a tax foreclosure deed, and it's just going to have a description of what appears in the tax roll, right? Section, block, and lot number. And that's going to be it. Possession of the property is forbidden until the deed is recorded. So until it's recorded, don't go on the property, start fixing, don't do anything. Once title is recorded, it is then yours. Title vests, ownership, it becomes yours once the deed is recorded. Now, dealing with today's times and the eviction process, eviction laws, if there is a need for eviction, it will become your responsibility. The county does not do evictions prior to auction. And in today's days, with the eviction proceedings established by New York State law, executive order, governor, etc., you're going to have to follow that deadline. So it looks like the eviction moratorium has been extended to January 15th, 2022. So if that's something of concern, you may want to contact an attorney and understand what that means for you should you buy property with someone who doesn't want to vacate. And everybody signs these, everybody acknowledges them. There are other terms in here I didn't cover specifically. Again, I don't read them all to you. I just wanted to highlight some of the important ones. Just a reminder on the IRS in 180 days. This is what the bidding platform will look like for the most part. And we'll have multiple properties that you'll see at one time. It's very easy once you see the first one go. Down payment, sample contract, it's all on our website. You can take a look at that. We do take Visa, MasterCard, Discover. Here's a calculator on our website. Real fun thing. Some smart people in our office put this together, and it's very simple to use. Just click the drop down, click the county you want to know about, type in the maximum bid you think you would pay, hit calculate, and it calculates the down payment for you, right? No matter what is due, the minimum down payment percentages that you are required. If you buy a low value property, they're still going to calculate it for you and tell you what you need to do, right? So it's important that you pay attention to that. For those of you who are going to be sending the check in by September 10th, you're likely going to want to use the down payment calculator. That's going to help you determine how much that check should be made out for. My personal thinking on that is I'd make that check for a little bit bigger. Why? You may just decide to bid a little bit more at the auction, number one. And you can always owe less at closing, but you can't be underfunded in the down payment. So, when in doubt, send a little more money. It's all going to happen in a matter of a couple of weeks. So, send them more money. Contract to sale, usually one page. There's full itemization of what happens and how it all works out for you. And everybody who's a high bidder will get this as an email for their use. Right? I mentioned the earlier forms. You're going to fill out these. We will fill them out. They'll be signed by you for New York State. And then it's recorded in your name. And once title is recorded, it's yours. If your attorney tells you to do anything else, or a tax professional tells you to do anything else, either follow their advice or not, at your peril, that's up to you, right? Again, this auction is on Thursday, September 16th. It'll commence at 10 a.m. in person. There may be a window that opens ahead of time. You may be able to start bidding ahead of time. I don't exactly have that time frame ahead in my head right now, but Thursday, September 16th, don't miss it. Each lot typically takes maybe a couple of minutes to go through, and we just go from one to the next to the next. With that said, let me ask Jessica if she could turn her mic back on and maybe give me an idea of any of the questions that have come in that I really wasn't able to hit in my presentation tonight. I hope it was informative. I hope I covered everything you want to know, but let's stick around and see if there's anything here that I missed.
Frank, I think you covered everything pretty good. There is one last question about the bidding, and it opens for bidding on Monday and it closes on Thursday. So bidders can place 1 bid or 10 bids, however many they want during the auction.
Okay, so the actual live part of the auction bidding and the finishing of that will be on September 16th, which is a Thursday.
Correct.
13th is a Monday. And on
Yes.
Monday, the 13th, the bidding space will actually open and you can begin bidding if you want to. And you can start bidding there once, twice, as many times as you like. But on on Thursday, the 16th is when each individual parcel will finish out the bidding process. Thanks, Jess.
Sure.
Anything else? If you have something else, type it into the chat box. We'll try and make sure we get it for you. If you came late to the presentation, just to let you know, this entire evening is recorded and will be available, I think, within about 24 hours on our website. You can click it, you can watch it again, listen to it again. If the kids or grandkids are bad, maybe make them listen to it. They'll settle right down. But you could fast forward and hear the important parts again if you'd like. You see anything coming in?
I think just bidders should know that they need to register for the auction. So get a username and password on the website, become a member, and then use that username and password to register for the auction. When they do that, our staff will email them the internet bidding packet to complete via DocuSign. So anybody who registers for the auction will get that packet to complete online.
Right, it's a two-step process. You join our site and then you join, you register with our site, and then you register for this auction. In the future, you just have to register for future auctions, right? You'll already be a member of our site. The reason why we have the two-step process is we're trying to put in we have put in a safety measure to try and eliminate underage individuals from just showing up and pushing a button. And there are some young folks that know their parents' credit card numbers. So we have this two-step process. I know the first time it's a little bit of a pain in the neck to do, but once you join us, then you can join any auction by just registering for that auction. It's pretty simple.
Frank, what about mobile home titles?
A good question. So mobile homes and you mentioned the word title, right? That's typically a chattel property, right? It's personal property. You get title like you would with a car. So a mobile home, depending on how it's affixed to the earth, will determine whether or not that is really included or not. And you may want to talk to the assessor for that township, right, or municipality to understand how is that mobile home tethered to the earth and how is it classified? Is it classified as real estate or personal property? What really makes the difference there is the foundation, if you will, right? Some mobile homes have been put on a foundation. They're put on a block foundation or a full basement foundation, or some of the screw coil and strap down systems that then start to classify it as, quote, permanently attached to the earth, and therefore it becomes real estate. If it still has wheels, and even though it may be up in the air on jack stands, but if it has wheels on it, it may still be classified as a mobile home. Great question, and it's a great question for your local property assessor or building code enforcement officer to help clarify your specific property of interest.
Another question is, when you check the right of way on the deed, are you checking on the property you are interested in or on the neighbor's property?
Oh, another great question. So first, you're going to want to check on the property you are interested in, right? Because you want to see if that one has a right of way given to it. The reason why it's such a good question is, obviously, if you're looking for a right of way, you're probably looking at a property that does not have road frontage. So what we've seen is that occasionally the right of way or the easement is granted from another parcel in favor of the one you're interested in. Now, how does that come about? You got to go back in history a little bit when the pieces of property were much bigger and they started cutting up pieces to give to relatives or neighbors or friends. And then the master deed for the big farm, if you will, control the easement or right of way. And some sloppy legal work didn't get it into the right deed. It's there, but it's in a neighboring parcel deed. So investors have taught us that when they look at property without road frontage, they read the principal deeds first, right, for the property they're interested in. And also that same property going back a number of changing of hands, if you will, looking for that right of way or easement. And then if they don't find it there, then they start reading the deeds for the properties that surround it. And they look for the right of way or easement there in their favor. Great question.
All right, everyone seems to be quiet. I don't think there are any more questions.
Well, again, you could always reach out to us. We've tried to make this very comprehensive and make sure that we answer all your questions as we go. If there isn't anything else that pops up, I want to wish you a good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight and listening in. I hope you found it informative. That's what it was meant to do. I want to thank Jessica for being here with me tonight on the other side of the computer. Thanks for your help. And you could always reach out to us through info@absoluteauctionrealty.com or aarauctions.com. Find us on social media and reach out. Our website has a tremendous amount of information for you: how to buy, how to bid. We have links to information. And of course, that down payment calculator is a fantastic tool. We're the only ones that have something like that. And it helps you figure out a lot of good information. So we'll bid you a good evening, good luck in the auction. And we can't wait to be able to see each of you again in person. Good night.